What if freedom was never meant to be trusted to good intentions? That was the thought that kept me awake on cold nights in the winter of 1789. Not the wind rattling the shutters, not the hunger that still visited many of us after the war, but a quieter fear, one that whispered in the dark. What if the new government we just created turns into the very thing we fought to escape? We had defeated a king. We had broken the chains of empire. And yet, here we were, arguing fiercely among ourselves, suspicious even of the leaders we had chosen. Some people said we were ungrateful. Others said we were paranoid. But those of us who had lived under unchecked power knew one truth deep in our bones. Freedom dies slowly, and often politely. I was a printer by trade, living between Philadelphia and Richmond, setting ink to paper for pamphlets, speeches, and letters that carried the pulse of a newborn nation. The war had ended a few years earlier. The celebrations were over. Reality had arrived. America was exhausted. Our old system, the Articles of Confederation, was failing. Congress could barely collect taxes. Soldiers went unpaid. States argued like jealous siblings. Merchants cursed inflation. Farmers lost land. Everyone agreed on one thing: something had to change. So in 1787, delegates gathered at the Philadelphia Convention. They spoke of balance, order, and strength. They drafted a new framework, the United States Constitution. On paper, it looked impressive. Too impressive. The Constitution created a powerful federal government, stronger than anything we had ever known. A president with command of the army. A Congress that could tax. Courts that could interpret laws. Many celebrated this as necessary. I felt my stomach tighten, because something was missing. There were no clear limits on what this new government could not do to its people. No guarantee of free speech, no protection against soldiers in our homes, no promise that we could worship or not worship as we chose, no shield against arbitrary arrest. The men who supported the Constitution, the so-called Federalists, said such protections were unnecessary. Why list rights, they asked, when the government has only the powers we give it? We had heard arguments like that before, from men with titles, from men who smiled while tightening chains. Those of us who opposed ratification were labeled troublemakers. We were called the anti-federalists. I wore the name with pride. Deep, slow, full of emotion, rich in imagery, suitable for a cinematic, solemn, manly atmosphere. The debates grew fierce. Taverns became battlegrounds of words. Newspapers overflowed with essays, warnings, and insults. I printed many of them myself, hands stained black with ink, heart pounding as I read the lines aloud to friends. We did not oppose unity. We opposed unchecked authority. I remembered British officials reading warrants that allowed them to search any home, at any time, for any reason. I remembered neighbors jailed without trial. I remembered churches monitored, presses shut down, voices silenced. Power, once granted, never returns willingly. As states debated ratification, the tension rose. In places like the Virginia Ratifying Convention, the arguments nearly tore communities apart. One man, quiet but relentless, began to listen. His name was James Madison. Madison had helped write the Constitution. At first, he believed it did not need a list of rights, but pressure mounted. States threatened to reject the entire document. Without ratification, the Union would fracture. Without trust, the experiment would fail. Madison realized something crucial, something history might have missed if he had been less humble. The people did not fear government because they hated order. They feared it because they understood power. So a promise was made. Ratify the Constitution now, Madison said. Amend it immediately after to protect the people. It was a gamble, and it worked. In 1791, 10 amendments were adopted. They were not written to celebrate freedom, but to defend it. This was the Bill of Rights. It did not grant rights. It recognized them and warned the government to stay away. Freedom of speech existed because silence had once been enforced. The right to bear arms existed because disarmed people are easily ruled. Protection from unreasonable searches existed because homes had been violated. The right to remain silent existed because forced confessions had destroyed lives. Every line was written in the shadow of abuse. I held the printed amendments in my hands and felt something rare, not triumph, but vigilance. The real reason the Bill of Rights exists is not because America trusted itself. It exists because America didn't. We knew that good men die, ideals fade, and power tempts even the righteous. So we built chains for the government, so the people would not wear them again. Freedom is not self-sustaining. It is argued for, written down, defended by memory, and every generation must decide whether those words are still alive or just ink on old paper. I was there when they were born, and I know why they exist, because liberty is never safe in silence.